Manchester United are giants, and at the moment they're sleeping giants. Something just keeps telling me, just don't write them off.
I do want to say something a little bit outrageous. Are Liverpool falling apart, Brandon?
Wow. One Community Shield game. No, we're not, is the simple answer. Wasn't a great result yesterday. Obviously, I was there. I thought we looked dangerous in the first half. Very clear to me that we can't be going into the season with just Ekitike. Whoever comes in, I don't mind really, but bringing him off and playing Elliott in a false nine just didn't work. But there were encouraging moments, and I think that a fall off is a way too big of a statement, but an adjustment period possibly, which you don't have much time for in the Premier League. So I'm hoping it's a swift move on Friday against Bournemouth. Get 3 points there, and I think it just keeps everything calm then, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the reason I ask it is not necessarily that it's like this dramatic fall from grace. It's more that when you're at the top of the perch, a fall off is anything less than finishing first again.
Yeah, and that is the expectation. So, like I said, you haven't really got any time to have dips because we have spent a lot of money. We are the Premier League champions, and there's a lot of expectation on us this season. So they will have to up it, but I really do think that it is difficult for these players in these games that aren't necessarily to win anything. I know you do, but I think it is difficult for them to lift. And on Friday at Anfield, it will be absolutely bouncing. Make a good start in the league, and I think that just sets the tone. The Community Shield would have been nice, but have you seen the stat actually? There's only like 2 out of the last 15 Community Shield winners have actually gone on to win the league.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I suppose it proves how difficult it is to maybe retain the Premier League outside of Manchester City.
Yeah, definitely.
Because obviously it's the winners of the Premier League versus the winners of the FA Cup. And also, weirdly, I was watching all the winning goals from the Community Shield over the last 10 years, and how many of them have gone to penalties. Like, obviously, you were there this season, I was there last season, watching both our teams get beat on penalties. Not that it is necessarily it's a statement of intent for the rest of the season to come, but I do think there were signs with Liverpool yesterday or Sunday where I felt a bit like, one loss, and I'm talking Bournemouth, anything less than a win at home on Friday night, it does build up, and those losses or those defeats start to build up, and then pressure mounts, and then all of a sudden the media are on your back, the fans are on the back of the players, and things aren't all rosy as they were last season.
One of the biggest, I agree, one of the biggest things that helped propel us with a new manager at the start of last season was our opening little run. Obviously we ended up getting beat by Forest, but I mean we had spells where we were just winning game after game after game, and I know that's very easy to say and sounds obvious, but it really does go one or two ways. I even liken it to United. We spoke in the group chat off the podcast and stuff and said that although you've got a really tough start, if you win 2-3 of those first 4 or 5, then it really does set that tone and precedent for the season going forward, and it sort of gets the media on your side of saying, do you know what, they could be a really good team this season, and it's the same for everyone, but it is massively important. My son asked me on the way back from Wembley yesterday, well, we want to at least get a draw, and I said no. Against Bournemouth, nothing is acceptable other than 3 points.
Yeah, you're right, and I think the biggest thing that people forget is confidence in football is one of the most important factors, and second to that is momentum. I was looking at a stat from last season, and actually over the second half of last season, Manchester City would have actually finished top over the last 19 games, and it shows you how important it was for Liverpool to start that first half of the season in a position that almost gave everyone else in the league a feeling of it's already done. And that's momentum, but that's also quashing the beliefs of every other team that are competing.
It's psychological, isn't it? You get that advantage. It's so much harder to chase if the other team is just constantly picking up points. And if you start well and other teams around you, even 6-7 points by the 10th game in the Premier League, you're thinking straight away, right, well, best we can hope for is top 4. So it's such a huge momentum shift. And like you say, you've spoken about it, about vibes, football's vibes, and people like Ten Hag as manager showed that if you get a little run going, or your players start to believe in you for a little bit, you will win games. But if you're not a top quality side and you haven't got the sort of ability to sustain those vibes and performances, then you'll fall off very quickly.
Yeah, Chelsea were a big factor last season where a lot of it was vibes, but maybe the quality lacked, where Liverpool had the vibes but the quality didn't lack in the squad. Yeah. So yeah, it can go either way. I do want to talk about momentum, and I do want to talk about the start of the season. And obviously you're a big Liverpool fan, I'm a big Man United fan. Talk to me about the signing of Benjamin Sesko, and how does that make you feel as a Liverpool fan, a rival fan? Do you feel worried about that signing? Do you see Man United's transfer window as something that could potentially become maybe the point or the turning point in the misfortune at that club?
Unfortunately for every other fan that's not a Man United fan, Manchester United are giants, and at the moment they're sleeping giants. I really do think that it's kind of gone shit or bust this transfer window. I think it's very much a throw the kitchen sink at it with all available potential budgets, and if it comes off, then you're right back where you want to be. Maybe not winning a title this year, obviously, but propelling yourself forward to back into Champions League football and all that sort of thing. I don't know about Benjamin Sesko. There's part of me that the bias wants to say that he's going to be a horrendous flop and he's going to follow all the other signings, but there's no doubt about it. You have strengthened in that forward area, and if he can hit the ground running, then obviously to spearhead that United attack, if Man United are scoring goals, it's very, very difficult, especially at home at Old Trafford. It's very, very difficult to write them off. So those stats about you winning at half time and things like that, if he's the one putting you in front and you keeping that sort of half-time record and going on to win loads of games, then yeah, he absolutely could propel you. I've been chopping and changing my mind on Man United for the last couple of weeks, and every time I start to think you might still have another bad season, something just keeps telling me, just don't write them off. I haven't watched him enough to make a concrete point on Sesko, but it's very clear off small highlight clips that there's something there. Whether that sort of comes to fruition for Man United, I don't know, but you wouldn't have spent that much money on him and tried to take him from Newcastle if you didn't think there was something there.
Well, I think the biggest point from the Man United hierarchy is the belief in a player to still spend the money that we used to spend, and maybe we thought we were going to stop spending that sort of level of money and maybe be a little bit more sensible on ready-made players. They have gone absolutely whole hog, kitchen sink at Benjamin Sesko. And look, you've got a guy who scored 21 goals and 6 assists last season in all competitions. This is a 22-year-old who is absolutely unique in his abilities. One of the highest jumpers, great header of a ball, but he jumps. Have you ever seen him jump? He jumps like an NBA player. It's an absolute joke. And then when you get onto someone who can strike a ball, there's not many players in world football that can strike a ball like Benjamin Sesko can. And when I watch those goals go in, it is, regardless of whether he scores 20 of them or 5 of them, it's a headline, isn't it? When you see something go in that is ferocious, and like the strikes that we've seen from Benjamin Sesko are outrageous. I said, to one of the lads, I said, I think what's more likely, he wins goal of the season or player of the season. I think we got a player who probably wins goal of the season over player of the season, but games are won in moments, and I think with Benjamin Sesko, a player who can create and score a goal out of nothing, I think Man United really need that. I do want to say something a little bit outrageous, but I have been thinking about it today, and I think I'm right on it. I think this is potentially the best summer transfer window any club in the Premier League has ever had. And I'm going to list you the names: Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko. If Man United now go and sign Baleba and Donnarumma from PSG, I cannot think of a single team that has ever turned a side over in one transfer window from a 15th placed side to someone that you would expect to go and challenge for a title. I think these are world-class players with world-class potential, and Man United are doing everything that you could possibly ask of them in terms of their business to become a title challenging side again.
Wow, that was some monologue, mate.
Look, I really thought about that, and I be unbiased on this. Give me your genuine opinion. I cannot think of a team that's gone and done this, just systematically picked positions that are not right and gone and replaced them with players who are either bang on proved what they can do last season or look like the next best player in the world in that position.
There are two ways of going about this. So I think what you're describing biasly for me is you are just describing a sane transfer window. You've got obvious positions that you need to replace, and you've gone and replaced them. What I don't necessarily agree with is that we can't have a situation where Manchester United, not necessarily you, but where Manchester United fans talk about how huge of a club they are and then be surprised when they go out and spend money to replace the obvious flaws in what they've got. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. However, contextually, I said it and got a lot of heat on the last time I said it about the 2v2 Liverpool transfers. There is no doubt that Manchester United needed to sign more players and big sign-ins than anyone else in the league. If we are to believe that Manchester United are one of the biggest teams in the world, which they are, unfortunately for some of us, then they absolutely needed to sort of go out and spend this money to get back to where they wanted to be. But for them in particular, it is a very, very, very good transfer window because you have done what you've set out to do and what you needed to do. There's arguments to say that Liverpool didn't need to spend so much money and make so many signings, things like that. The fact we have feels like, I think one of the Red Men TV boys said, we put our big boy pants on, which is exactly right. If you hadn't have done it this season, you could have genuinely been in a relegation scrap this year with letting some of the players go, like your Garnachos and things like that. They may not have been brilliant for you, but it's depth and it's players that affected you negatively. So it's like a 50-50 split. Kind of waffling a bit, but yes, it's been a very good transfer window. If you want me to say that, yes, it has. Has it been one of the best transfer windows of all time for a team? No, because it's what you needed. It's exactly what you needed, and had you not had it, you'd really, really struggle.
Just to finish off on this point, and we'll move on to our season predictions in the Premier League. No, I had also, again, this is Man United bias coming out, but I had this feeling that earlier on towards the end of last season, I had this feeling that when Jim Ratcliffe sat down with Gary Neville, something felt disingenuous, something didn't feel right. And I'm not saying that actually as a bad thing, I think it's a positive. There was a spin that needed to be spun. There was an angle that needed to be projected from Manchester United, that we weren't this club that can go out and spend millions and millions on wages and players. And I think the world of football needed to understand that. Now, what Jim Ratcliffe did during that interview with Gary Neville is essentially say the sky is falling, Manchester United are at rock bottom. Next season, we run out of money and we will not be able to afford the players that Man United fans think that we can afford. Now, how that's transpired is Man United have gone through their squad systematically, getting rid of all of the dead wood, but then also signing top elite level players at sensible prices with sensible wage structures. And all of a sudden, Jim Ratcliffe, even though last season he was saying that Man United are at rock bottom and we can't afford these players, all of a sudden we can afford these players. This isn't a surprise to him. This isn't something that was an accident. I'm fully convinced that Sir Jim Ratcliffe pulled an absolute blinder last season, set the club up for a perfect summer transfer window, and now has chucked all his eggs in one basket for next season for Champions League football.
Yeah, look, there's there is obviously sort of chess being played in this, and how the club come off to the media and to the fans and things like that. And the easiest way to win fans back on song is by making signings for on the pitch. The only thing that I've got an issue with that you've said there is the off the field stuff, the cry arsing about finances and things to then let off staff. In the ticket structure at Man United now is pathetic. It's a joke, and it sort of irks me that there'll be so many worldwide fans, because you are such a big worldwide club, that will lap it all up because of the on the pitch stuff. And yes, that's what being a fan is about. But there's blokes that have lost their over 60 season tickets, and lads that are now gone from paying 20 quid for their kids to £84 for teams like Leeds or Sunderland. And I just don't like that it could mask the negative things just because of a good transfer window. Does that make sense? I know it's not all about that, but
you are actually right about that.
Yeah, there are still problems fundamentally within that football club regarding finances, and I just think, yes, you can have a trade-off, and there can be some masks and papering over cracks, but you can't also go very public with certain struggles with finances, which affect match-going fans and staff within the club, and then go and spend 200-300 million in a transfer window. It just doesn't sit right with me.
I just think Man United's success is contingent on its commercial.
Of course,
I would say it's commercial viability, but on the pitch, when it's not going well, it's almost like we have to fall back on that, and that's where we were making the cuts. I don't agree with it, and I think the way it was done was actually really poor. And like you said, with the ticket prices, we look at Burnley at 84 quid this season. I agree, and it's not me making excuses or championing Sir Jim in any real way. It's more that if we want to get business done and we want signings, which every United fan does, the only way to do it was the way that he did it, in setting us up to a point where nobody thought that they could actually take the piss out of us anymore, and then we are able to systematically tick those boxes that we needed to tick. I think that was a big point this season.
Yeah, and at the end of sorry mate, go on.
No, I was just going to say we want to talk about Man United and we want to talk about Liverpool a lot, but it is worth mentioning that this isn't just a solely Man United and Liverpool podcast or show. We talk about everything, and we have got the season predictions coming up. Have you got one more point on that?
No, mate, you go for it. It was only a small point. You crack on.
I think it's worth going through these season predictions because we talk about Man United and Liverpool, but the other clubs are equally as important, and I'm really excited for this Premier League season. We are literally days away from the kickoff. And are you going to the Bournemouth game on Friday night?
Yeah, going on Friday night. Yeah,
cool. And I can imagine you're absolutely buzzing for it. But our table 1 to 20, we're going to start with 20th. We're going to rattle through these. Who finishes bottom of the Premier League for you next season?
Burnley.
I've gone Sunderland, and I've said Sunderland because I think they are the most bottom of the league table side I've seen in a long time coming up. And this could be record breaking, and I know we say this every season with a new team, but I loved Sunderland and what they were producing, but I really felt like they were going to do something in the transfer market, and it's been quite underwhelming. And I know it's probably difficult for them to identify the right players, but I've seen them pre-season and they are way off it. They're getting beat comfortably by sides that they shouldn't be getting beat by, and I just think incoming Sunderland, bottom of the league, record lowest points. I just
You're going to like where I've put Sunderland.
Okay, who's your 19th place?
Brentford.
I've gone Burnley. 18th, who's getting relegated?
I thought you were going to be shocked by Brentford. 18th, I've got Leeds.
I'm definitely not shocked by your Brentford shout. I've got Leeds as well. I just don't think they'll have quite enough. They are going to sign potentially a big money striker, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Who is just going to avoid relegation for you in 17th?
I've got Sunderland avoiding it. I know you've said about the transfer window being underwhelming, but They've got sort of a half decent spine and leader in Granit Xhaka. He's probably still way too good for them. Adingra, your little signings like that. If I just think that Burnley and Leeds, there's too much pressure on them. Not that there isn't on Sunderland, but I just think they could be a shock. And I'm willing it because I like the new teams coming up and I want them to stay up.
Yeah, I think I agree. I kind of do want Sunderland to stay up. I just feel it's very lightweight. I said last season I was such a big fan of their young side. They were the youngest side in the Championship, and getting promoted was probably beyond their expectations. So, I like what they've done, but I just feel like they needed to make the right signings, and it feels lightweight. I've gone with just surviving relegation. I've gone with Wolves. I think they're going to be in for a really difficult season.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I just feel like the Cunha factor was massive for them last season, and without that match winner, I think it's really difficult to get points. 16th, I've got Brentford. Who you got?
I've got West Ham.
Yeah, interesting.
It's just, and I'll come on to this a little bit later as well, but I you know how much of a fan I am of Kudus and him leaving. I just think it's it might just be one. I don't really like Graham Potter either. There's something about him I don't massively like, and I just think they're the sort of club. I like that Juve, but I think that they might just struggle.
Yeah, I think a lot of it hinges on Fulkrug staying fit next season and Bowen being in form.
I agree.
We will really rattle through these. In 15th, I've got Fulham.
Bournemouth.
14th, I've got West Ham.
I've got Fulham.
13th, I've gone Bournemouth.
I've gone Wolves.
Interesting. 12th, I've gone Brighton.
I've got Everton there.
Interesting. I've gone 11th, Palace.
I've also got Palace.
Okay, we agree on one thing. 10th, I've got Forest.
I've also got Forest.
Oh, 9th, I've got Spurs.
I've got Brighton.
Okay. 8th, I've got Everton.
I've got Villa.
I've got 7th, Newcastle.
Manchester United.
6th, I've got Villa.
So I've put Newcastle there. I think it will be close with Newcastle and United this season, closer than a lot of people think, but I have edged them.
5th, I've got Man United.
I've got Tottenham Hotspur.
Wow, big statement that. I'm going to ask you about that in a sec. 4th, I've got Arsenal.
I have got Arsenal.
Interesting. 3rd, Chelsea.
Chelsea.
2nd, I've got Liverpool, and winning it, I've got City. I'm assuming you've got it the reverse.
I have indeed. I've got City to finish 2nd, Liverpool to win it.
The ones that stand out for me there, where I think I need to make a point, and I think maybe you need to make a point on, I've put Everton 8th. I just think this new stadium actually, whereas I think most teams that change stadiums, historic stadiums, struggle, I think this is going to be massive for Everton, and I think this is going to push them into the next era of the club. And I do think the signings are really good. I love David Moyes. I think he's a fantastic manager. He knows how to run this club. The signing of Jack Grealish, I think, is brilliant. I think their defensive options are really, really good. I think Mikalenko, when he's fit, if he's fit for the start of the season, he's a massive, massive plus for them. Tarkowski, Branthwaite's a top centre back, and Jake O'Brien, who I absolutely love at right back as well. I just think Pickford in goal, it is a defensive solidity that I think you need in the Premier League. And then there are goals in that Everton side, and I think, Beto might not be the starting striker. Tierno Barry is yet to be proven, but I think he's a good player. But Jack Grealish, Iliman and Dye, I like those players. Dewsbury Hall's a good sign. I think Everton will go really well this season.
Yeah, I don't think I've done them a disjustice. I quite like where I've put them, but that is obviously a massive improvement on the last couple of seasons, and I think what you're saying is right. The Hill Dickinson, which is the worst name of a stadium that's ever been named, they're absolutely loving it. And even if it doesn't turn out to be a fortress, I think excitement from the fans is a massive, massive part of it. They are due a decent season, to be fair to them. I don't necessarily agree on your point on David Moyes being a fantastic manager. I think he might be a little bit outdated. However, to steady a ship with that defence that you've talked about, there's probably not many managers out there better to do that. It's that sort of almost like 4-4-2 prehistoric type defensive setup. Not that they play 4-4-2, but you know what I'm saying, with the old school type thing. He loves that club, and they seem to love him. So why not have a better season? Absolutely.
You said, and just lastly on this, you said you fancy Brentford to get relegated. Why is that?
I just think that Thomas Frank was so important to them. He's obviously a top quality manager. They have lost, obviously, in Mbuemo, Norgard, could be Visser going. It's a huge contribution to their team captain and their goals, basically. And they've kind of massively out-punched themselves in the Premier League by staying up and being there this long. They're a brilliantly run club. I love going to the G-Tech. I think it's a really nifty little stadium. They're very much a family sort of club, not a huge amount of fans and things like that. So it's not that I don't like them. I just think that this might be one transition too far, and they just lack sort of like real intensity in that ground. And I think without the signings to pull them out the other side, that they'll struggle.
Yeah, I do think they'll struggle as well. I didn't think they'd get relegated, but I just wouldn't be surprised if they do, considering the players they've lost, the manager. I think there's a big season coming if he can stay fit for Kevin Schade. I think there's a really good possibility that Dango Tara joins from Bournemouth as well, so maybe a goal start coming there. There's the striker that didn't play, is his name Igor Thiago or something like that.
Yeah.
He was brought in to replace Ivan Toney, and obviously he's not been fit. So, it could click again, and they could go again. But I'd have to agree. Players to watch this season, we've gotten a little list of 5. We'll go through them. My first player to look out for this season is my favourite player outside of the Premier League last season. It's Tierney Reinders. He's a player that I am so shocked that nobody else has identified as a top elite level talent, an elite midfielder with the kind of best years, probably the next 2-3 years ahead of him. I'm really shocked that it was City who went and got him, but he suits that City system in such a weirdly different way to their previous midfielders. They've had Mateo Kovacic, who's a really great ball carrier, maybe a little bit more defensive minded in that City side, but Tierney Reinders will not be that defensive minded midfielder. So without Rodri there, it is going to be interesting to see that dynamic. But I think what Pep's gone and done is looked at his side and thought, this is a City side that I want to dominate possession again. I want to absolutely press the life out of teams, and when we get the ball back in transition, we've got real quality in midfield to move the ball quickly. Tierney Reinders is an absolute bargain. He's a steal, and people at the end of the season will look at him and that signing and think that's the signing that won City the league. I think he's got so much more to his game that people maybe aren't going to see at the start of the season. You're going to see the number 4 on his back and you're going to think this is a defensive midfielder. He's going to be back making tackles. That is not his game. He is going to be grabbing the ball from deep and carrying. He's going to be moving the ball nice, quickly, sharply inside the box, and he will be on the end of things finishing. Last season, by the way, this is a guy who's wearing the number 4 shirt for City. He got 15 goals and 4 assists. So we are not looking at a defensive midfielder. We're looking at a player with huge amounts of quality in the final third. So I think he's a real one to look out for. I'm excited about him.
Yeah, I mean, you've been talking about him for a long time, and I will absolutely take your word on it because I haven't watched him anywhere near as much as you have. But he does fit that City profile, doesn't he? Very technically gifted, forward-minded, clearly with those stats that you said. The dynamic is the biggest thing. I think if he gets his sort of rhythm going with Rodri not being there, then it may even be difficult for Rodri to get back in, because if they're sort of back to full City peak with him at the heart of it, then it's difficult to change that in a season, isn't it? So it is very, very interesting.
Who you got?
I've got Kudus. Spoke about him earlier. It's not exactly a crazy thing to say because we all know his quality, but I think under Thomas Frank he could be sort of taken to that next level. I spoke to you about him when Ajax came to Anfield in the Champions League really early on, and he just impressed me so much. Got the ball, drove at us, made the right decisions all the time. He's really, really powerful. Obviously, there's going to be some shoes to fill with Son moving to LAFC, and they need sort of another very strong attacking presence to come forward, and I think he'll be the one that does it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kudus is a good signing. They need ball carriers. I think Son was a great ball carrier, transitioning from the midfield to the final third on breaks and things like that. So yeah, Kudus hopefully will be that for them. My second player, I've gone with Lenny Yoro. I think this guy is finally a centre-back of Man United quality of old. He's the player that I would expect someone like Sir Alex to make a sign in 2004 to reinvent that midfield. He's come in at 18 years old, just turned 19 now, and he's starting to look like the centre-back that I think every bit of his price tag was worth. I'm looking at Lenny Yoro, and I feel like it's only Man United fans who are really seeing the quality and the potential in this kid, because what he's done since joining Man United, from that first couple of games, since getting torn apart by Kamaldeen Sulemana and coming out in an interview and saying that really hurt him, he's grown, and a lot of players will fall. But what he's done is he's stumbled and he's got back up. And what I love about Lenny Yoro, in that he fits that Man United mould, he has the personality to stand up and go, do you know what, I am going to be a Man United centre-back. I'm going to stake my claim as the first choice centre-half, and I guarantee next season under Amorim he will be the first name on the team sheet. I think he's in for a massive season, and I think it won't just be Man United fans singing his praises at the end.
Yeah, I can see it, mate. I can see it. I think there's such a football tribalist sort of opinion that you just don't want your other team's players to do well. But it would be naive to say that he hasn't got the profile of a top defender. He's tall, he's quick, he uses his feet well when he's in defence to get the ball out and get you into a transitional phase. So if he gets backed up by the other defenders playing well as well, I can see it. But I mean, this is the thing with defenders. It's very hard to be an unbelievable defender on your own. You kind of need the defenders around you to enable you to be the best defender you can be. It takes a very, very special talent to just be a world-class defender in a back four of not very good defenders. I'm not saying you've got bad defenders. I quite like it. De Ligt, Martinez, they're decent on their day. So yeah, I don't disagree. I think he could be a brilliant player for you.
Who you got?
Again, another obvious one, but it is Jack Grealish. I think it's an unbelievable signing from Everton. I think his best... Obviously, it hasn't worked out for him. He had a good season in that treble season, didn't he? But other than that, for his price tag, you could argue that he's flopped. However, his best times in the Premier League and in football have come as a big fish in a small pond. Not that Everton are a small pond, they kind of are. But if he's the main man or one of the main men there, I think it'll allow him to flourish. The biggest problem at City is that you're competing with so many players in one position that it's really hard to get a run going, because if you don't perform, you're out of that team straight away. We sort of spoke about Everton earlier. Ndai is a fantastic player. I really, really like him. But for me, he's sort of really the only guaranteed creativity or flair that you're getting from that Everton side. So adding another one in with just constant forward thinking and clear talent, I think he'll just flourish at Everton this season. I can see it being made a permanent transfer if it ends up going that way and they can afford it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Jack Grealish is still a quality player, and I think it's a real shame the way people talk about Jack Grealish, because the price tag wasn't his fault. He's had the opportunity to go and win trophies, which he did, and he's just all round a lovely bloke. He's just a nice lad who's a really good footballer, who unfortunately just hasn't been able to break into this Man City team effectively. And I don't like the slander that he gets, because I think sometimes you've got to reward footballers for being good people. And I'm not saying that you can't criticise them, but sometimes you just got to be like, take the edge off. All this slander on Jack Grealish over his price tag, he didn't ask for that. It's 100 million quid. It's something that Villa couldn't turn down, and it's something that he couldn't turn down, the opportunity to go and win trophies, which he has done. I don't think he'll regret that move at all, and I think, yeah, you're right, Everton's a good shout for him. I've got, very briefly on this one, Nicholas Füllkrug. I think he's a player that at 32 years old, it's kind of, you're expecting he's past his peak, but I think there's an opportunity for him this season, being West Ham's front man. If he can stay fit, he is a bagsman. He is a pinpoint accuracy striker of the ball. He's someone that I expect, if he can get into the right positions, he's got every finish in the book. He's powerful, he's strong, but his mentality is absolutely elite. He's a player that I think West Ham need in that dressing room. There's a lot of times last season particularly where he almost had to come out, even though he wasn't playing sometimes, and say, do you even want to be here? Do you want to play for this club? Do you feel like you actually deserve to play at this club? Because a lot of the times there were players that maybe were crossing the line of whether they were professional or not, and he was one of the ones to call them out. And I saw that, and I thought, do you know what? For someone who doesn't play, to have that mentality, you've either got to be an absolute dickhead or you have got to have a big set of balls, and I rate that massively. I think if he can go at it next season, full clean fit season, no injuries, I think he'll be one of the up there, maybe 10-15 goals in the Premier League next season.
Yeah, he's a natural born finisher. It's just his injury record, and I mean, the thing is, the way he plays, he shouldn't get that many injuries, or any major injuries, because he's very much a sort of on the end of it and finish it type player. I know he's got other things to his game, but yeah, I think he's a fantastic player. He's obviously a German international as well, and he's probably punching above his weight, or West Ham are punching above their weight having him.
Yeah, I agree. Who else you got?
Yeah, so I've got John Arias, gone to Wolves. I think he really impressed. I'll be brief as well. He really impressed in the World Cup. I know obviously we don't know huge amounts about him, but he looks exciting, and if he carries that into the Premier League, I know they've obviously lost Cunha, but if he can even sort of replicate half of what Cunha did, he could be a massive signing for Wolves. They need someone with creativity, and he looks like he's got bags of it. Whether he's strong enough for Premier League and fit enough and up to it remains to be seen. But I mean, he got a goal on his little cameo when he came on the other day in one of their pre-season friendlies, so he looks like he's going to fit into that system, and I think he could be someone to propel them up the league a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's a good signing. I think he's super dangerous, got good technical ability. The goals, I think that's the only thing. I'd want to see someone who has proved that they can score at maybe a lesser level, and he hasn't done that yet, but it's not to say that he hasn't got loads of talent, because we saw it in the Club World Cup against Premier League opposition as well. He was a really dangerous player, and defences couldn't sleep with him on the pitch. So yeah, I think it's a good shout. My fourth is Malik Diouf. A lot have been said about Malik Diouf. The thing is, a lot of people are talking about Malik Diouf now because he's a £4.5 million signing defender on FPL, and therefore all of a sudden people without even watching him see, oh, he's playing left wing back, this must be a really great player. So he's almost accidentally given himself a reputation to go and try and uphold next season. But I think he's a really good player. When I watched him in pre-season, he's got great delivery. He's really, really safe and sound on the ball. And for a fullback, one of my least favourite things about fullbacks is when they give the ball away or knock the ball long to nobody in a panic. I love players that are comfortable on the ball. It's why I've always liked Luke Shaw, because you never feel like he's going to lose the ball. I want someone who's neat and tidy on the ball under pressure, and I think he is that. He's press resistant. I think you've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the other side who's press resistant as well. I think that's something that Graham Potter will look towards. Can you keep the ball? Can you retain possession? I think he's big on that. But when it comes to delivery, he looks like he's got a box of tricks and he can get the ball in the box. So yeah, I like that signing massively. Only 20 years old, by the way.
I think which is great. You want future-proof players as well, and because I think they'll struggle, I think they do really need that safe option in defence. But if they can add that with someone who can also provide a few assists and get the ball quickly through the midfield, then it's only going to help them, isn't it?
Yeah. Who else you got?
I got Jamie Gittins for Chelsea. It's going to be tough to sort of break into that Chelsea side with how many players they've got and play consistently, but he's obviously going to get chances. He was brilliant at Dortmund. I'm really surprised that more teams weren't absolutely fighting tooth and nail for his signature. Obviously good business by Chelsea getting it done so early to sort of fend that off, and I think some people might have missed a trick with it. He's really, really skillful, direct. He makes the right passes at the right times. I think he could struggle to get into that side, not because of his talent, just because they're going to need to manage player happiness and try and fit different players in different ways. But if he does get game time, I think he'll shine in that game time that he gets.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there, and it's a big thing for me for wingers. You said he's direct, and I love a player that gets the ball, faces up his fullback and runs at them, and that is something that Gittins does. I've been a fan of his since he broke through at Dortmund, but when I watched him in the Champions League last season against the bigger sides, scoring goals against big sides as well, it takes a player to do that, and yeah, he looked really exciting, so I think that's a great shout. Estevao, Garnacho, Neto, there's a lot of players that he's got to get past first, but if he does, then it will mean that he's the signing that everyone thinks he could have been. So yeah, great shout. My last one is fairly controversial, but I think this guy is the best right back in the league if he's fit, and that's Jurrien Timber. I think so many people almost forget players exist when they are injured. He obviously has that position to contend with Ben White, but Arteta, if he's got a fully fit squad, Jurrien Timber plays over Ben White, and that says a lot, because I think Ben White's a good defender. I think he's a very good right back. Jurrien Timber, though, I think is next level. He's 24 years old. For me, he's one of the best in the world, and if he can have a fully fit season, I think Arsenal fans and the rest of the world will see that he is. I think he's one of the most technically gifted right backs as well. We're not looking at a player like Ashraf Hakimi or Frimpong who bomb on and get into the box and maybe create and score goals, but someone who keeps the ball, someone who's neat and tidy, and someone who defends really, really well. He almost defends like a centre half, but he's got the ability on the ball from a fullback point of view. So I think he's got a great mix, and I think a long season ahead, but if he can keep fit, I think he'll be the name on everyone's lips as the best right back in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost getting to sort of United levels of hatred with Arsenal, to be honest, and so it's really difficult to admit when I like a player, but he has got that all-round sort of defensive game, a bit of everything. Like you said, you mentioned your Hakimis and your Frimpongs, which could be seen as sort of one-trick ponies, whereas Timber is very, very well-rounded, and if he stays fit, there's no doubt that he is one of the best defenders in the league. I don't want him to have a great season because it's vital for Arsenal's success if they're going to get any, that they have that sure defence, because it's kind of what they base their entire personality on. So I don't want him to do well, but yeah, if he plays, he's the best defender, best right back that they've got available. I don't like Ben White, and he improves them if he's playing.
Yep. Let's finish off your 5 players. Who's your last one to watch out for next season?
You had Yoro. I had to put one Liverpool player in there. We've just been talking about direct and sort of at the defender type wingers. So I am going to go with Rio and Gamoa. It is slightly controversial because we don't know how much game time he's going to get, and it's putting a lot of pressure on a young lad who's only 16, and we're talking about Premier League here. But what I will say quickly is that Gakpo is playing like his position is under serious threat. He's almost trying too hard. And I just wonder if that's because we've come out and said that we don't need to sign another left winger because we're almost fast-tracking Rio and Gamoa. He impressed massively in pre-season. It's still to be seen whether he can do it in the Premier League consistently, but it almost feels like Slot's kind of, and this might be completely sort of projecting, but it almost feels as though he's just waiting for that opportunity to bring him on and bring him into the side with the hope that he doesn't have to look back, and then he's got 2 very good wingers to pick from and have a headache over that position. So he's so dynamic, so quick to get past defenders. If he gets into the side, I think he'll stay in it. He's definitely going to get game time in the cups, and I really, really hope for him that it translates into Premier League game time as well. I hope I don't come back with egg on my face at the end of the season because he hasn't played anything, because I do think that he could be really exciting for us.
No, I don't think, even if he doesn't play next season, I don't think it's a terrible shout, because anyone who's watched him or knows anything about football, when you watch him, you see a player that's 16 years old doing what he's done, you're going to go, wow, he's the next big thing. So I think it's a good shout. I think he's a top talent, and I think it was the goal against Bilbao he scored pre-season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I was like, 16-year-olds don't do that. They don't do that. And that was where I was like, hold on a second. I seen him pre-season. I'd watched him against Preston, and I said to you, That's the first time I've seen him play. And what a player you've got, but you've got to nurture that talent. And then, watching him score that goal where he just picks it up, drives with it, and just bangs it in the bottom corner, like, you're 16, you shouldn't be doing that. So, yeah, I think Liverpool got a real player. I think you're right on that.
I just think he knows that he's good, and that's that.
Yeah. The confidence is massive. That's something I said to you, wasn't it? That I think what I liked most about him is the confidence at that age is huge. So yeah, I said to you before we started this that I was going to do a predicted team of the season. Now you haven't done one, which is probably a good thing because I'm just going to rattle through these and who I think is going to be in the team of the season at the end of the season. I've gone Jordan Pickford in goal. I've gone Yuri Timber at right back. Centre back, I was torn between Maxence Lacroix, who I think is top draw, and Tosin Adarabioyo. I think if Tosin does play next season with Colwell out, I think he'll be Chelsea's best centre half, so I think he's in for a good season. Lenny Yoro aside, either one of those two. Jed Spence at left back, I think he can play right back or left back. I think he's a top defender and a really underrated player. Florian Wirtz, I've gone in midfield with Reinders and Cole Palmer. I think Palmer's in for a massive season. Right wing, I've gone Bukayo Saka. I think he is the best right winger in the league. I don't class Mo Salah as a right winger. I class him as a striker almost, the way he played last season. So I'm saying Saka's the best right wing in the league. Left wing, I've gone Morgan Rogers. I think he is one of the best talents in the world. And I'm not just saying the Premier League. I think he's that good. And striker, I've got Erling Haaland. As I mentioned last week, I think he's in for a massive season. Anyone in there that you're not sure about, Brand?
You'll see by my reactions when I send you over my recording of the video that I agreed with most of them. So I'm not going to grill you on them too much.
Cool. We said also last week that everyone had to join our Day One Fantasy Premier League league. It was one of those where it's very difficult to portray the kind of drama that goes into this, particularly at the start of the season and then at the end of the season, but it is the best form of fantasy Premier League you can play. It is the most chilled and relaxed form you can do. You don't have to make any subs, no transfers, no triple captains, no chips. You literally pick your team at the start of the season, leave it. That is it. The league code is VAZQU4. You've still got time, if you're listening to this, to go and sign up and put your team in. We have got probably about 20 or 30 new people just joined today,
nice.
Which actually isn't that many people to beat, considering that we had 186 last season. The winner gets £100. Go and do it now. Right, so finishing off the show, Brand, last season I did my weekend treble. For anyone who wasn't following me last season, it's basically my way of paying you to listen. Every week I pick 3 teams. I pick 3 different selections, technically, that are going to equal double or triple the stake that you put on. You put £10 or whatever you can afford, you follow along, and at the end of the season you will have more money than you've put in. Last season we did 7 times your original stake for the whole season, which I was really happy with. This week is the first week of our weekend treble, so here are my selections. I've got first one, West Ham versus Southampton, over 1.5 goals. I've got Exeter versus Mansfield, over 1.5 goals, and I've got Barcelona to win away against Mallorca in their opener for the La Liga season. I've got £10 on that, and it's £23.57 back. Brand, do you have a weekend treble as well?
I do, mate. Yeah, we're going to go head to head this season, yeah?
We might as well. See who wins, and we'll have to come up with a forfeit.
Okay, well, look, we both like a bet. We don't necessarily endorse it, but it is a bit of fun to have. And if you're going to sort of 7.5 times or whatever it is, or more this season, we might as well have a go. So I've got over 2.5 in Liverpool, Bournemouth. I think it's going to be a goal fest. MK Dons to beat Cheltenham and PSG to win their opener away at Nantes.
Ooh, what's the returns on that?
£10 on that is £28.60, which doesn't seem a lot, and there's a couple in there that you could think are slightly risky, but in my eyes, MK Dons have had a good start, or half decent start, and they're at home. PSG should be a banker, and like I said, I think there'll be loads of goals in that Liverpool game. Yeah,
I think the thing is with this, when I started last season, I was really torn between, I wanted to go risky sometimes, but at some point when I started losing a couple, and I was like, anyone who's following these, and I met people who were following them, and they told me that they backed my bet, and I started feeling guilty, and I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to start putting bankers in, and I won like 6 in a row, and so that was massive for me last season. So I've tried to keep it nice and simple. You don't have to go for massive returns, but it's just making sure you make a profit at the end of the season. So yeah, we'll go head to head this season, see who wins it and who makes the most profit. Final call to action, guys, for everyone listening. If you are listening on Spotify, thank you. If you're not and you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like the video. Comment as well. Tell us what you think. A lot of people comment on our TikToks and tell us how delusional we are. Tell us on YouTube as well. So we are here. We're going to be back next week, next Wednesday, and every Wednesday until the end of the season. There's something that you wanted to do before we finish, though, Brand, and it was just about the old school chomp that we used to do on Goalpost TV. You wanted to try a chomp.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think social experiment wise, I think it's almost like you can't believe everything you see on the internet. And I want us to do an example of, we obviously do know what we're talking about, but just how quickly people will bite if you say the slightest thing wrong, or if you give an opinion that's even slightly outrageous just to get a few likes and clicks. So I think we're going to try it with the Benjamin Sesko point you made earlier. Yeah, just to reel a few in.
I'm going to ask you about it, and this is this is an Easter egg for everyone who's stayed and listened to the end of the show. So you'll see a video go on TikTok pretty soon where me or Brandon or both of us get a lot of hate this week. So this is going to be why. Benjamin Sesko is one of the best young footballers in the world. Why do you, as a Liverpool fan, feel like he's going to flop at Man United?
Look, the league, he's not even going to be the best Swedish striker in the league. Let's get that out there first of all. We've already got Alexander Isak and things like that. But the problem with Benjamin Sesko is he's just not proven at this level, and I think to lead the line for Manchester United, you've got to be proven. Right, he might score a few goals here and there, and he's obviously knows how to sort of strike a ball well, but is that good enough to lead the Man United forward line? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, me either, mate. Very good. I wouldn't have been able to say Benjamin Sesko without laughing there, so you've done very well. Thanks, guys, for staying to the end. Like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends, send it to your friends. Join the league. VAZQU4 is the league code, and we'll be talking about your team for the rest of the season next week, next Wednesday, and every Wednesday. Thanks for joining.
Nice one, guys. See you in a bit. Chomp.
Chomp.